And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another recap review of the MGM Plus original series, The Emperor of Ocean Park. Got your guy here, Lucas, with my guy, Nate Jeer. What's going on this evening, sir?
Doing well, doing well. How about you?
I don't know, but my voice sounds like it's an octave low. This shit is crazy right now. Hope I ain't catching COVID or something. But
Oh
let's,
boy.
look, it's the pearls of the business. You never know what can happen. But let's jump immediately into episode 4, as Tal did, as he could not wait to look up Kimber's location on his iPhone. As that's the way the episode starts. It is him looking up the location and then him at the same time watching a news report of the fake FBI agent McDermott who blew up to find out his real name is Colin Scott and he's a military contractor. What did you just think about this opening episode as we go from the explosive, pun intended, end of the last episode to this big reveal that this is a military contractor, knowing Jack's background, that this was the person that was faking to be an FBI agent this whole time.
I'm deep into the conspiracy theories here. Did he really die? Is the first question.
Mm,
But also at the same time, too, these type of folks are dispendable. So if he died, what did he mess up in doing so? Why was his death necessary? Who did he have to report to? What job didn't he complete? What secrets did he tell? I think his death isn't just a he's gone type of thing. There's definitely a domino effect from this. So I especially with being at the beginning of the episode, all I kept wanting to think was the cause and effect actions of this, the domino effect, the ripple effect of this, though. Because also too, let's just call it what it is. Say this really did just happen. An FBI agent car exploded. This ain't going away quiet. And an FBI agent or subcontractor or contractor, whatever you want to call it, they're all in the same bed together. You all know we seen this across the board. They put these folks. What did we? Oh, Snowfall, prime example. Where Teddy, exactly, and Teddy, because they need to say like, you are dangerous, but just in case we needed to make sure that your name doesn't have any effect to the FBI, we need your status to be this. His whole goal was wanting to get back in the FBI to be completely shielded and guarded for anything that may come. Obviously, they needed to keep him at arm's length because of liability. So to tell you that, to say that this person obviously could have had some strong ties, he could have been a loose end. I mean, it could have been a bunch of different things here, especially with how much information just came out on the news. Yeah, right. So I definitely thinking really deep in the conspiracy note with this one.
Exactly. Again, it's very interesting to see exactly how this is going to play out because at this point, you didn't just reveal his name and his actual profession for no reason.
Yeah,
that's done for a reason.
Yeah, I mean,
because it could have been random guy blows up in the car. Nope, you decided to say everything.
That's another thing too. You think about it from that end. Like, if they put all that information out there, who do they want to know? What bit of whatever did they need to put to bed, in terms of just control of society or anybody else? Like, before people start to look too deep, let's say, no, just throw a name out there, get this one over with, on to the next. So like, there's a lot of ways that this very 10-second scene could cause monumental effects.
Exactly. And then next up, we have another new timeline. It's like every episode we're gonna get a new timeline here until you get everything played out properly. In this one, we're in 2017. If you pay attention, this is 2 years removed from last episode's time frame of 2015. So we get to see the judge look a little bit more wary, a little older, completely gray at this point now. But here is just him seeping through this scrapbook that we've been wondering exactly what happened to it. And at the same time, he calls Addison just to attempt to set up to meet with him, saying that we need to talk. And we see Addison blow him off. So, because not much happens in this scene, I am going to ask you just your thoughts at this point. What did you think the scrapbook relationship was with Addison? And what did you think his pressing issue that he just had to talk to Addison was?
At that moment, I just thought because we had Addison wasn't present last episode, I think they were trying to establish each of the kids' relationship with their fathers, and then obviously just understanding how some of these critical moments that the kids may have taken for granted. One, because the judge it's their father that they could see do no wrong, and obviously at points that they thought possibly there could be nothing that could ever happen to them. So in a way, you kind of see Addison kind of going about his own life in a way that he wants to prioritize in other things. Here, his job, his flings, because he don't keep nothing long, as Mariah has said.
Everybody said at this point.
Yeah. And you know, I just think that it was just establishing just their situation at the time. But what was the pressing factor? I mean, I didn't think any predictions then, but I definitely couldn't wait to see what it was going to be. And why was it Addison that he needed to have this conversation with? Good to see Henry Simmons back on screen too. Great actor.
He ain't been on there since the first episode.
Yeah.
So this is a heck of a reintroduction. 2 episodes later of Addison's character. But next up, we go right back to the present time and we get Mariah and Tal. As here, they're just going through all the evidence on Reverend Father Pastor Brown as they just attempt to find Lisa at all costs. Here was an interesting thing that happened, and that was the moment Kimmer comes home. We see that they're talking about something blowing up, and then Tal comes up with the biggest lie humanly possible. She kind of picks up on it that it's a lie, and then right after Mariah leaves, she tells him, don't get caught up in her mess. She needs to talk to somebody about this. One question, why do you think he lied to Kimber? And two, what is the hostility between her and Mariah? Or what do you think it is?
Yeah, Mariah's protective of her brother. There's no questions about it. If anybody's going to do wrong by her brother, it's going to be her. If anybody's going to mistreat her brother, it's going to be her. That's just normal sibling relationship here. Yeah. And also I think it's just family. It's family one way or another. Like you could have the worst relationship with one of your siblings, cousins, or whatever, but ain't nobody else gonna do them bad unless it's you.
Exactly.
And you see it all the time. I mean, granted, we just recently watched the horrible X-Men Origins, and Sabretooth was like, no one's killing my brother Wolverine besides me. And I was just like, oh, okay. And I was like, yeah, I guess that trope works here one way or another. But I also think Mariah understands that with the suspicion and then what may be going on, that she's not going to, and much like Tal too, they're going to try to alienate her as much as possible now, because what is she up to? She's moving real funny. And I think that with his suspicions, he just refuses to be quite open and honest with her about anything right now. I have to say, if you've ever dealt with somebody who is a habitual liar or suspicion of mistreatment, you know that providing them any continued level of honesty leads you down a path of being abused or all sorts of words kind of catering to that. You could be abused, you could be completely used, whatever it may be, vulnerable for all that matters. Like, you just want to keep yourself in a safe position because you don't know what she's up to. So well fitting, because I don't think nobody's team Kimmer right now.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue here with Kimmer. Clearly, she just comes across as like a villain. I don't know why it feels like Tal is either holding a secret because he doesn't want her to know, or on the other end, it feels like a secret is being held from her because she may be part of the conspiracy in the first place. So I think that is what we need to find out for anything else. Exactly what Kimmer's place is in everything with Tal.
Leverage is leverage, man. I mean, at this rate now, she's up to something. By viewers, we understand that. By within the story, he's discovering that, and again, I just think it makes him completely vulnerable to expose every one of his truest intentions when she's operating with ill intent. Maybe,
exactly.
But that's part of the show here, is that I think they want us to be suspicious of Kimmer. Which I don't agree with some of her actions, but I mean, in the grand scale of all the conspiracy going on, is she truly a part of that? Does she have something to do with his father's death? You know, how deep does this go? And I think they're doing a really good job in building a character that is a heel one way or another, but she's been nothing but who she is. There's been no difference here, you know?
And that's going to be the whole point of Kimmer. Is she just a cheater? And is it that, as Mariah brings up later in the episode, once a cheater, always a cheater? Is that just it? Or could it be more? That's, again, some left to find out. But we go right back to 2017. Again, not much here to talk about. It's just the judge, again, attempting to reach out to Addison. Addison blowing the judge off, telling him, I'm busy. I don't want to do this right now. We can't talk. We can't have dinner yet. And then we see the judge as he just wanders around New York, getting harassed by a liberal for his extreme right-handed show, but also just him going back and watching Addison on television. I don't necessarily think it's much here to talk about. It's just, here's the admiration that we have not seen towards Addison that we've kind of seen in multiple scenes already this season between Mariah and Tal as it pertains to the judge. And this is the first time we get to see him look proud into what Addison is doing. So other than that, I don't think there's much else to talk about there in that scene.
Yeah.
Next up is Tal helping Kimmer as it looks like they're moving. And again, we're going through the theory that her car is still messed up, as she brought up to him last episode, why she had to make the moves that she had to make. But here's him telling her, hey, I think someone is following me. I think it's the same car from the school that's following me. And this is another level of bringing suspicion towards Kimmer, is her dismissing it completely that somebody will be following him. And then her asking him, why would someone be following you? And we see Tal does not even attempt to answer that question. Again, is this just, do you believe this is just something that's being played out again to bring more suspicion towards Kimber? Or is he legitimately trying to protect her because of that nomination, that he doesn't want her involved into this?
I mean, it is a little bit of both here, but also too, I mean, like, he's at an all-time paranoid for rightful reasons. It's a lot of weird things and coincidences happening around him. So regardless of fact or reason, I mean, you can't help but to think, like, why does an Audi keep following me? I mean, I get it. They're a dime a dozen, I guess, but you're not seeing the same color, same model all the time. And this is a guy that's also, should be noted, has really good attention to detail. So we're not going to gaslight him like he tripping here. He's definitely on to something. And also think that with working so closely to his sister and how she's kind of putting the battery in her back about all the things that's happening, it's right on par. It's right on par for this to be something where people ain't dying around you. People you done recently spoke to, recently done whispered their name, whatever it may be, and all of a sudden they're here one day, gone the next, and all of a sudden you're just above a car following you. Like, yeah, it certainly does make sense here.
I think it all goes back to him not being honest with Kimber in the first place. He lied about why he was there when the car exploded. If he possibly would have been truthful, she would have understood why a car would be following you. But this is him trying to keep her in the dark. And again, it could be because he thinks maybe she's involved, but it also could be because of that nomination. And he understands the pressure she's under because of it. So he's like, if I keep you in the dark, I ain't got to worry about disclosing any of this. Because the moment you know, it has to go out to everybody. Yeah. So again, he could be doing a good husband thing here to protect his wife. But next up is just Mariah back at the judge's house, just going through his materials, trying to find not only information on Lisa, but also to pack up stuff. We see her get a bit emotional as she's going through some of the judge's things. But then right after that, we saw her and Tal talking about this planning book again and about a room that is circled in Reverend Pastor Father Brown's planner. And it's constantly this room that's in the back of the church that it seems like it's a meeting, as she said, every other day. And this is where they put two and two together for their first real break in attempting to find out who Lisa is. And Tal says, oh, that has to be an AA meeting. All I'm going to ask you is, was that an obvious conclusion?
Hell no. My ass thought it was a boom boom room. I thought the absolute worst. When they said AA, I was like, oh yeah, I went overboard. And honestly, I'll keep it 100. Like, I think everybody at some point may have went to church. Does anybody know where their AA room is at their church? I really don't know if there's one. I really have no clue. It was far from obvious for me. So I was definitely like, oh, boom boom room. The pastor was out here doing the thing, you know, where you're giving your secret testimonies and asking for forgiveness and what. Listen, this guy's not above that, and that's not a slander to anybody with within the word. But my man was out here feeding drugs to a woman for reasons. Why would he be above this? So that's where I went with it. So AA room was definitely like, oh, okay, cool. My bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, retribution, because I swore that was him and Lisa's sex den. and that's what they were going to discover.
Definitely thinking the worst here.
All I had the question is, if that's the case, why wouldn't it have been AA meeting? He's the reverend of the church. I don't think that's something you need to hide in your daily planner. Yeah. So it just threw me off, because you see a room and they say back of the church, and come on now, we know churches. Not offense to anyone who goes to church, not offense to any other churches, but
yeah,
anybody named reverend or father and you have a secret room in your church, we know exactly where that's going to go to, and it's not an AA meeting. So that's just us thinking bad. But again, it's the first break into finding out exactly who Lisa is. Yeah. But next up, we go right back to 2017, and this is a judge arriving at Addison's job here. And again, just the judge being proud of his son, just looking upon him. The most important element in this scene is the way, I want to say that was his boss or his co-anchor responded to seeing the judge there and telling Addison, no, you need to interview him. Like, we're struggling. We don't get ratings. You're a nobody here. And you need to interview him. That way, the people up top can know your name. And this leads Addison to go into the judge, asking for this favor. And the judge immediately agreeing with no hesitation. But on one thing the judge wanted was they meet that night for dinner. What did you think about this whole setup? Again, we've seen the judge go out his way to help Mariah. We see how that worked. We saw how he is with Tal. We see how that worked. Here with Addison, we see there's pride that he did not want to do this, that he wanted to stand on his own, to do everything on his own. Even up bringing up the network, y'all hate my father. Like, you just was just talking about how bad he was. To now him having to go to him and asking for help that he never wanted in the first place.
I say that we see another display of father helping his kids one way or another. What I don't think has been really revealed in terms of what did this mean for him in the long run, because even with Mariah, you saw him help her and she kind of went off in her own way about it, and then only to discover that, his help was beneficial for her. So it'll be interesting to see how this kind of plays out for Addison in the long run. But I mean, it is a lot of pride from the judge, because he understands what network he's coming on, and although we don't have too much of an outline of the what's happening in the media, but with him being conservative and his son being liberal, and even with homegirl being outside, she was whatever she was, obviously the conservative. We understand that, like, he's not in his element. So to do so, to be willing to do so, is obviously just showing you just how much he cares about his son. And the whole person trying to essentially put a battery in him, talking about how this is going to help him and his last name. His last name is his last name. Everybody knows his last name. There's no getting around that. But if you watch any dramas around morning shows and talk shows, you understand that this was nothing but a desperation move for ratings, because the judge draws. Even homegirl outside said, I know who you are because my dad like you, may not like you, but everybody knows who you are. It's not even a question. So the judge draws, the judge star power. No one else would have had the balls to do that. So they put Addison up to the task to do so. Because at one minute you break them all down about not being somebody, but then you're like, oh, but I need something from you. Which
exactly
in anybody's right mind, the answer is no here. But
in a heartbeat.
Right. But does this open up a potential door for him instead of him filling in? Does he get a permanent spot? These are the type of things that could come into play. But it's just interesting to see that the judge would be willing to really help his son by any means necessary.
And twice in this episode, we hear Addison being called a substitute teacher.
Yeah, right. And also just
his position.
And just for the dinner part too, just because you brought that up too, because I think the pressing factor is that he's trying to get close to his son, because there's something he needs to get off his chest, expose, talk about, whatever it may be. So I'm I don't know, man. I feel like even all of us have also had those moments where you can kind of tell that like our older relatives are trying to find means to communicate with us, and our life is going 100 miles per hour, and we're taking these moments for granted. So for me, it's just started to become like this must be something real, something serious, something very important, because he's willing to stoop as low as going into what potentially could be a rival network, a network that's not his platform, not his viewers, subjected to an array of questions. It's no different than Trump going
Anything.
to the national.
Wow.
Yeah,
But
it is that.
Here.
Is it not that though? Judge going to the National Association of Black Journalists there, like you knew he was what he was in for. He was slated for an hour. He left for 38 minutes because out of his element. He was hit with the hard questions, which really wasn't hard. But I mean, it's the same dynamic here as a conservative judge who's known for his conservative views going into a liberal platform or just anything that's just not him. What could happen? And he did it for his son.
Yeah, of course. And the son sold it right by saying this is a interview about Black fathers. So instead of making it any form of political, he just said, "Hey, you're my dad. It's a show about Black fathers. Would you be on here?" And he automatically agreed just because he had an ulterior motive that he needed to talk to his son about. But next up, we go right back to present time. And this is Tal and Mariah on their mission to break into the AA meeting. Down to Tal saying, "Do we need to rough up our clothes? Do we need to change stuff?" I love the little line from Mariah. "Yeah, let's take your car." Basically saying, your car looks like somebody that would be in an AA meeting, not mine. But once they arrive,
why she disrespect my man like that? I was like, wait, what?
Full disrespect to him. The moment she said, "Let's take your car," like, they'll think you clearly belong in an AA meeting. But the moment she gets into the meeting, as Tal has to take a private call to concern something else that we'll talk about in a minute, Mariah starts asking questions right at the end of the meeting and being the worst investigative reporter humanly possible. As you're asking for names at an AA meeting, knowing damn well the one thing they can't give is names at an AA meeting. But because the gentleman constantly is looking over to a woman, because that wouldn't be suspicious at all that you're looking at Lisa while I'm talking to you about Lisa, Mariah follows her out and has Tal follow her out. And this is when we get the discovery that is as blatantly clear as humanly possible the moment she walked in the room is Lisa. But here's the interesting part about Lisa. In the conversation with Lisa, they talk about Reverend Brown and them being together. She does not deny it for a second, but then they bring up their father saying, "We think his death can have something to do with Reverend Brown's death." And this is where she drops the bombshell that the FBI met with him the day of her father's death, or reached out the day of his father's death, and they met with him the day of his death. And the FBI agent was the fake FBI agent that met with Tal here, and that is Agent McDermott. What do you think about this reveal? One, the reveal of who Lisa is. Two, Lisa revealing that the FBI reached out immediately following the judge's death to get information. And then they talked to Reverend Brown right before he died. And it was the fake agent that's been talking to Tal this entire time.
The plot thickens. That's what I thought. I really didn't know. I just thought it was such a development in terms of everything that we're trying to discover here. Lisa being Lisa did nothing for me. I mean, she definitely looked the part. So fantastic on the actor there, because if you're going to be in the AA, I need to believe that you were in AA. Like
yes,
I believe that you were in AA. So yeah, I didn't think anything about it besides what Mariah said later, and I said you're right. Is that fake FBI McDermott has been 3 steps ahead of them the entire time, knowing that he's dead, and because he must have been going on some hunt too, looking for everything here, the arrangements or the whatever that whatever position of them wanting to know what the arrangements were. Because the arrangement sort of is stated in how do they say it in the case of my untimely death, blah 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 arrangements. But it seems like they were hot on the trail. They had knew about these things before the events had happened. So yeah, it is still obviously somebody else still to be revealed, I feel. And while the siblings, the Garland siblings are trying to discover it, this other guy was just a couple of steps ahead. So it's kind of just wanting to know who he's working for and what's to come.
There you go. And next up, we're gonna go back a little bit, just a slight bit, because also before Tal and Kimber go to the AA meeting, this is where we hit the discussion with Tal with this friend. For some odd reason, it's a professor at the school and also a private investigator. As he sends his friend, after they've been subbing and taking his classes for him, he sends her to follow Kimmer, which made absolutely no sense, and find out exactly what she was doing. I have not seen anything to say that this is what this character should be doing, but amazingly, this is a great way to pinpoint exactly.
You said it, I didn't.
Power Tal has exactly.
Listen, I tell you, the events go a lot different looking on anybody's for some Amazon packages if you're anybody but this person. So, yeah, who would have thought? But hey, this is a whole show about everybody and their deep desires for other professions, and Mariah's the lead of that investigative journalist, although she professionally did it, but like she's back on the case and she's not Paul Lazan. But hey, here we go. She gonna do what she gotta do to solve this one.
Not only that, again, and that's what we just want to focus on the whole following of Kimmer thing here, because we just get this out of our way. As one follows Kimmer to a condominium downtown, and Tal says, "I don't know this person. I don't know nobody who stays there." All I was thinking in my head, why would you? This ain't your friend. This is Kimmer's friend. So why would you know this? He then proceeds to tell her, continue to follow her, and find out where she goes.
He's desperate, and his actions are showing that. And it doesn't help that his what do you call it? His hired private investigator, is egging him on by saying like, "Well, once a cheater, always a cheater," and he like, "Damn right, go get her ass."
I need a friend like this. I need a friend that I can.
You got one, probably. You just don't know it.
Clearly, I don't know I had a friend that go on suicide missions and do this. Because if anyone asks me to do this, I'd be like, "You've lost your mind. I'm not following your significant other anywhere." No is the answer. But then she does follow her to the big house. This is the reveal that she finds out after he tells her, "Get out your car, go up to that house, and find out who lives there." Down to her saying the most obvious thing: what happened if they have a camera? And he says, "Just cover your face, but do it." And we find out that it is Kimmer's boss's place that Kimmer's at, and Tal is heartbroken. I'm still confused why he's heartbroken. Like, business associates don't meet at each other's houses, but
stop it. Yeah, I think he's heartbroken because his suspicion, his worst nightmare is coming to life. His suspicions are true. And she's been misleading him, and it doesn't help that his private investigator friend is egging him on with once a cheater is always a cheater. So she's out here doing the worst. I say this though, I mean, like, we are supposed to ride with Tal via the vehicle of this series, and to see what's truly happening with Kimmer and her boss is going to be a turning point for everything that we once thought right now. So right now is a very important moment for the viewers of this and for the watchers of the show to understand that we are supposed to think Kimmer is the worst person in the world. Kimmer is cheating. Kimmer is throwing her legs up, twerking it back, all those other things, busting it down, and only to find out that it's going to be something. I mean, we watch enough television to know how this works. You all probably do too. But regardless of what's happening, even if it does come to light that everything that Tal is suspecting is true, we are still supposed to think at this very, very moment, if this had been any other genre, you'd be like, please kill her. But in this case, we're just pro against her because she's definitely doing some dirt is what we're being led to think.
Yeah. And that's the key part, being led to think. It'd be messed up if we turn around and all they're doing is cramming her.
Doing taxes?
No. Just setting her up for, she literally has the appointment coming up. I would assume her boss would be the person
going over her speech, her second speech.
Iron all this out. Like, he may have a whole team in that. He may have the.
Yeah.
Look here,
I mean,
they don't do Moscatos anymore. If they drinking espresso martinis, they smashing. You might as well just get over it. You lost your girl.
either that or a swirl. Those are two ways you definitely lost.
Hey.
If you serve her
If
swirls
they ran
at
up
the crib,
if they ran up to L'Oreal Plaza and that's what she called him at, I'd be like, "Oh, it's over. Your merge is done now. Your
hey,
merge is over now."
hey, bike week. What's the joint that was just in Baltimore that they just moved from the South? God damn, the college week, the Black College week. God, what's it called? Anyway, bike week.
CIAA.
Yes, CIAA, bike week, CIAA in Miami, and L'Oreal Plaza Swirl. Your girl go to either four of them, that's a wrap. You ain't getting her back.
That's it. Hey, at this point, she went to DreamCon by herself. You done. Like it's just it's so many things. But next up is the whole dinner scene with the siblings and a judge. I'm going to combine this all into one because I love the way they play with the timelines here to show you two different dinners and two different consequences of those dinners while they relate to the exact same thing. So first up is just Tal and Mariah questioning the letter that Tal got and wondering now if this was just a setup by McDermott instead of it being an actual letter from the judge. Yeah. And this is when Mariah tells him that Addison is coming for dinner. And this is the whole setup, as at this point, we play the dinners against each other. So for the sibling dinner, we have Mariah attempting to bring up to Addison exactly her thoughts about the judge. And Addison telling her, "I thought you left this behind already." And when she attempts to continue, he threatens to leave. So I'm going to just focus on their dinner first, because their dinner, then we'll go to the judge's dinner. Yeah. So right after focusing on leave, they go right back into having a conversation just about everything. And this is where the scrapbook is brought up. As they brought up Abby, and Tal says, "I just wish the judge would have found out who killed Abby or got some retribution for it." And Addison says to him, "What makes you think he didn't?" And then that's when Tal brings up the scrapbook, and we see the look on Addison's face completely change. So at this point, what did you think about the siblings' conversation about everything? Down to the end of it, as they're constantly talking about the scrapbook, and we see how agitated Addison gets, and then he leaves. What did you think about the siblings' dinner?
Yeah, I can't remember if it was at this point, but dots started to get connected, and Addison's agitation. I'm gonna wait till we finish up some other things. I'm not sure if this is exactly the moment when, but I would say Addison's agitation definitely spoke volumes. He was definitely, it was very definitely apparent that he knew more that he was leading on, and he was being triggered by the discussions being had. And I believe it's a little bit right after this soon that we'll understand why.
As we play the parallels of the dinner between him and the judge, and it looks like a very peaceful dinner. Down to the judge saying, "Hey, man, I need you to settle down. You're getting too old to be playing the field. You're playing it with everybody humanly possible." And then the judge brings up the scrapbook as they talked about Abby. And the judge shows Addison the scrapbook. And we see the look on Addison's face when he sees it. And the very first question, along with paperwork that he hands Addison also, Addison's first question is, "Did you give this to the police?" And the judge says no. And then he says, "What did you do with this information?" The judge said, "I do what I do to protect the family. Sometimes hard decisions have to be made." And we see how pissed Addison is. I know the obvious conclusion about what's on that scrapbook and what's seen because they're not telling us yet. What do you think it is that's on there that the judge showed Addison?
Well, I feel like there's no better time than right now to use a Fast and Furious quote, because if there's one thing I know, there's always room for family. It is very evident. Well, you have to really think about this. Obviously, there's a crime that's been committed. Addison asked him, did you give it to the police? And he said he didn't. Should be a little tweaking of what your assumption is here, because let's just say that the judge killed somebody. He wouldn't necessarily ask them, did you want to
take it to the police?
Yeah, you know,
that would not be his question at all.
You know, like, really? But it does make you know that maybe he does see there is something there that is incriminating. And you have to wonder what it is. It completely broke him down. I don't know, but to me, it makes me feel like it has something to do with what's Abby,
the death of Abby,
death of Abby, and him. But yeah, it definitely has something to do with Abby here, and I think it's just interesting that you have to think about what did Addison see that would make him ask his father, did he show the cops? Because the judge wouldn't do anything to self-incriminate himself, but it has to be something that could be potentially okay if you wanted to go to the cops. So to me, it definitely has to do something with the death of Abby. Could it have been a picture of Abby's death that would indicate that he knows who did it? And you know, did somebody give him, you know, some type of evidence or something that led to that? I don't know. And maybe it's just hard for him to look at it because, you know, there's a sister here. So I think it could be something on that note in terms of why his response was the way it was and so on. But even going forward, you also have to think too about what will be the cause and effect for his actions later on that we're hearing about here. So it's a good plot point, good plot twist here. But you know what's to come of it will definitely be key. There's two key things in this episode, and this is definitely one. And you know, if Vin Diesel was here, just know that everybody looking for a thrill, and what's real is family.
If Vin Diesel was there, some odd reason the engine would have fell from a chain and he would have grabbed it with one arm and not ripped his body apart. But to me, this is a wonderful setup because of the way Addison talks to Mariah and Tal first. And he says to them, what makes you think the judge didn't get retribution? Basically, what makes you think we didn't get back for what happened to Abby? So if you're just someone who casually watching, you may think, or you may put together that Addison killed whoever killed Abby. Because the fear of his was, did you go to the police with this? So then you will wonder, is this something that Addison did? And I think that's what makes this show great, is because while everything could point you in that direction, it's a whole nother direction that this could easily be into, which is this is something the judge did. And that's what Addison means by, did you take this to the police? Meaning, I need you not to go to jail for this either. Or if it's incriminating anyone else, they can't go to jail for it. It's so many different setups here. But they did a wonderful job at just showing his reaction at both scenes. He is hurt with the judge, and he's clearly hurt with everything. With Mariah and Tal, his reaction is more anger, down to his questioning Tal, like, how did you see this book? Because he obviously thought that he got rid of it before one of them could see it. So it's a wonderful setup and a duality between those two scenes. I think that was a beautiful setup that they did there. As you see both dinners back to back, to wonder what's going on. But following all the dinners, the next up is just Mariah and Tal reacting to the way Addison did, and them saying we need to find someone else to talk to about all of this. And this is where they decided to meet with Wright to have a conversation about everything with the judge. And that's what we're going to stay with right here and not go to another scene. Is during the meeting with Wright, they lay everything out for him, down to asking, do you think Jack could have been involved in our father's death? What do you think about this letter that the judge gave me, down to the Excelsior? And Tal said, it's a chess move. That's all I can think of. And him telling Tal, like, well, you need to follow whatever your father put in place, because clearly he thought you were smart enough to figure this out. So it's like he just gives them reassurance that You have to be going down the right path because your father wouldn't have put this on you if he didn't think you were capable of figuring this out.
Yeah.
And then Mariah asks him, do you think Jack could have had something to do with our father's death? And in a roundabout way, I'm sorry, he ends it with saying, I wouldn't put it past him. What did you just think about this conversation with them and Wainwright? As it just kind of confirms their thoughts, but also, if he clearly thinks there's a chance that Jack could have killed him, without blinking an eye that the judge had a heart attack, because that's the key part here. Like, the judge had a heart attack, but he was more than willing to accept that that was not true. What did you think about in full this conversation here?
Yeah, it confirms all the suspicions. That's all I got for now. I didn't think anything more or less. Just they took a credible source and they just reconfirmed that they might be on the right track for everything.
Yeah. Especially after them saying we need to reach out to someone else.
Yeah.
Like they kind of laid out their cards. We talked to everyone else but Wainwright, who is the judge who took over for Garland when he stepped down.
Yeah.
He's the one, I think, who took the Supreme Court nomination. Excuse me. Once the judge had to step down because of Jack. So I guess they feel that's a confident person to talk to. Or possibly the wrong person to talk to. So many setups with this story, we couldn't possibly tell you. But next up, we go back to 2017. And this is just a meeting, the interview that was set up between the judge and Addison. As we see him visibly still hurt and angry about everything that was revealed the day before. And then we get a quick shot after it. And just the judge asking, are you coming to Thanksgiving? When I see you and Mariah Thanksgiving. And Addison saying, of course you will. And then that scene ends. And it almost feels like this is just a closing chapter between him and Addison. And we don't get anything else moving forward. I mean, it's not much here to talk about in this scene, except for it's just a setup to let you know that even after everything, they still had a relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key part that everyone needs to notice. And next up, we get the Italian Job version from Emperor of Ocean Park. As Tal and Mariah, they're leaving Wainwright's house, Tal notices as he points out to Mariah, like, an Audi's been following me for days, but this time it's a BMW. And it's been following us for 6 blocks. And then Mariah, in what appears to be a Honda Accord, it looks like one from at least the body structure, because I've not seen any other car look like that. Tells Tal to step on a little pedal and floor it as they go on an unnecessarily high-speed chase to get away from this BMW. And once they get away from BMW, we get the big reveal. The person in the BMW chasing them this whole time was Maxine. I got 2 questions for you. One, was you surprised that Maxine was the person chasing them? Before you answer that. 2, why the hell did she get out the car and run after them to reveal she was the one chasing them?
Because Marvel movies, every series need that superhero scene where the villain has to expose herself. That's all it was. I mean, that's definitely one of those very normal tropes in the film. I was surprised it was her though. I didn't know who it could be. Because I think it's because we just didn't see her this entire episode, so you tend to forget she was on the board. But yeah, if you had thought about it, like, oh yeah, it definitely could be Maxine, because she's been hella suspicious this entire time, popping up at random places. And he even says, like, why would she be chasing me when she could have got me somewhere else? Well, you know, everybody has their private investigators on folks, and I think that's what she's doing. That's why she's always constantly being close to him. She's definitely very, very suspicious. And listen, I'll say this here: there's no there's no secret to my theory. They damn sure wouldn't have paired her on the junkets with Ziegler if she wasn't a bad person. You know, it's a weird, interesting pairing. And I was thinking about it, I was like, why would they pair them to? Must be something that we don't know yet. And her suspicions is definitely high right now. And everybody has a boss. And Will Ziegler has not been seen around in a little bit. Must be getting all his putties doing all the work, and then reporting back to Lord Zed later. So you know, that's where I see this going.
I'll throw another theory out to you all together. And this is not a theory for me, possibly knowing the book and knowing anything else. I'm just going by the show's theory here. This entire time, it's been an Audi that's following you. Why would you assume that now it's a different car following you? They're following you for the same reason. what happens if her reason for following Tal is to protect Tal?
Yeah, that's very true. That's also been a thing.
Because where's that other fake FBI agent who was the one in the Audi?
Yeah, it absolutely could be a thing. And also they said that they did thought it was a man.
He said a black man with glasses.
Yeah. So very much could be true. And that's also something that they're not reinventing the wheel with if that becomes an element. We've seen that plenty of times too.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, it's just a
and maybe that's why she's supposed to sell, because there's no liability in it. So yeah, damn well it could be true.
Because maybe she's thinking, if you see it's me, you'll stop. Because you already ran into me twice.
Yeah.
At this point, am I a threat to you, or am I just? When Uncle Jack said, "If you need help and protection, I can provide that for you," is Maxine the person he was talking about?
True that.
Like that could be the other element here in the room that we don't know about, especially since when after everything, they for some odd reason get to, is this cousin Sally or Aunt Sally? I couldn't figure out which one.
It's cousin Sally. It's cousin Sally. Yeah.
I don't know. She looks like an aunt. She
Definitely
has ant arms and everything. She looks like an ant.
The ant arms.
Everybody knows the ant arms are, Joe. I ain't gotta say
nothing.
I ain't gotta say it.
I ain't saying nothing.
But as they get to cousin Sally's house, everything is suspicious in this scene. As Dr. Umar would say, you didn't find this suspicious? Like everything she does is suspicious here. Down to inviting them in, immediately trying to get them drunk. And she offered them 3 different types of drinks before offering any food.
She always down to party though, so that's right on par for her.
But then right after she goes to get the food, after she offers them, they say they're hungry. It's the constant look backs that she's doing to try to pick up on their conversation.
Mm-hmm.
As she's coming back with the sangrias, she asks them about what scrapbook, and they tell her what the scrapbook is. And this is where she completely breaks and tells them, if I'd have known it would have been that important, I wouldn't have done it for him and took it. And this is where it's revealed that Addison had cousin Sally take the scrapbook and burn the scrapbook because he didn't want anyone else to see it.
Yeah.
What did you think about the episode ending with this big reveal?
The most important thing always will be the people in this room right here, right now. Salute me familia. So, because by the great philosopher.
This has to be because we, for some odd reason, watched the Fast and the Furious movie within the last week. We had no business watching. That's what this is. We done got 2 references from 2 movies that we watched, and I know it sounds odd that we went from the Wolverine Origins to a Fast and Furious movie with a bunch of dragons thrown in between.
Yeah, well, they if there's one thing about the fans here, they love their Fast and Furious, so we're gonna have to give them what they want. That's why Aunt Sally was at the suspicious, or cousin Sally was at the suspicious, because she was ear hustling because she figured there may have been something as to her actions. Also, Addison not showing last episode lets you know what he's been doing for a little while. So it all checks out there in terms of why or how. But him or having her destroy it definitely will speak volumes. First of all, we know she read it, because
definitely
you talking about Ant arms,
no way.
Ant tactics too.
Yeah.
There's one thing she's gonna do
through that whole book and take notes on what she needed to remember. Just
might be another copy there. Don't worry about that. So there may not be all may not be lost here. But I just think that she didn't realize that she was being a part of something bigger than just what you would assume a favor for Addison. But there's gonna be probably, I would assume the next episode is gonna pick up immediately after this, and they're gonna want to know what was going on in that book.
Exactly.
How did they approach you? And then obviously getting back to Addison at some point to have an additional conversation about why he felt the need to destroy it. But he has to do his duty, and he has to protect family, much like his dad did. And I think by making sure that it doesn't get into the wrong hands, something that is very highly sorted right now, he felt like he did what was best. What was in it is going to be very important. What was in there to be protected, what was it to never ever to get to anyone else's eyes, all of that would need to be revealed.
Yes. Is that your final thoughts on episode 4 of Emperor of Ocean Park?
Yeah, I wish I could have got more Fast and Furious quotes in, but other than that, yeah, I can't wait for the next episode. We're 4 episodes up to 10 in, and
We
it's
already
still
know.
shaking up to be good, man. Really, really
We already
is.
know what that means, everybody. Same thing with every show. Expect all the fireworks in episode 5 humanly possible. That's the
Yeah.
way any show sets up at this point, is to give you and to set up by 4 with this being a big reveal that Addison had something to do with that scrapbook going away. Now he's going to have to reveal why he had something to do with that scrapbook going away. And that's going to play a part. So, ladies and gentlemen, just let us know what you think about this episode. What do you think about Addison and his actions? Not only his conversation with the judge, but his conversation with his siblings and burning the scrapbook. What do you think about Maxine? Was she there to help Tal, or was she there to stop Tal and get this information that everyone seems to want? What do you think about Mariah and her investigative reporter skills, and will she infiltrate someone else's AA meeting to find a random person all over again? And finally, just what do you think about the time jumps with the judge here? And what is the pieces they're trying to put together for us to discover? Just like, comment, subscribe. Let us know your full opinions of this show. This has been another recap review of The Emperor of Ocean Park. Peace, people.
Ridiculous.